Well, good morning to you, and thank you for joining in today. Whether you're joining me on LinkedIn Live, over my YouTube channel, or over on my Facebook, wherever you'd like to view it, or maybe even catching up later on replay. I hope you like, comment, share, message, all those kind of fun things. Click the bell for subscription, everything else. Today, we're going to talk about LinkedIn and how to change the perception of our career branding. LinkedIn is an important tool. Now, we started this short series on Friday with my resume renovation lecture. It's part of how you take back control, in your job search, in all of the things that you'd like to do. I realize I have a little bit of a spot right here on my glasses, which is going to get me the whole time if I don't take care of it. So Friday was resume, all the secrets to make your resume really be that standout that causes them to go, oh, get them in here, get them on the phone. I have to speak with them. That's what your resume should be doing. Polar opposite to that is how you take that skeletal system of your story, just enough to excite them, take it over to LinkedIn, but now expand it into a full three-dimensional sales brochure, all about yourself that naturally drives the reader to one singular conclusion. My gosh, if I hire this person, work with this person, best business decision I'll make today. We're going to end this short little series tomorrow with a special Ask Self Recruiter, all on job search and career branding. So please do join in again for that tomorrow. Let's get going on today. This is building your career brand with LinkedIn and how to use it for your job search. So not only how to elevate your story elements, but how to use the mechanics of LinkedIn to reach out to decision makers, position yourself as this product, because like it or not, we are a product, just the same way those products on the shelf at the grocery store are some product. Think about products that you really, really like. Oh, what do I really, really like? Why am I interested in those products? What is it about those products? Well, it's very similar when it comes to us. It's how are you interesting and what makes you tick, which could have something to do with what you do professionally, could have nothing to do with what you do professionally, but it is part of how you take control of the discussion. We're real three-dimensional human beings, as you're going to see with what I share on this lecture here today. And you have to tell that whole story, because the whole story itself is how you begin to influence other people. Now, for clarity, resume, in my view, and everything I'm teaching you today is my opinion, is about catching or piquing that interest, the essence and value of your career on a single sheet of paper, which causes that almost visceral reaction. They're looking at dozens or hundreds, maybe even 1,000, 2,000 resumes, if this is a decent job that you're sending in for, and they're droning out like snow blindness or resume blindness. And after a few dozen, few hundred, I can't tell any of these people apart. But when they come to your resume, get them in here, get them on the phone. I don't even know what I'm responding to yet, but I sense the value is here. That's what happens when the right essence and value of your career is on that single sheet of paper as a resume. Now, how do you take that telling over to LinkedIn and expand it? Well, you have to understand LinkedIn. It's the de facto social networking website for our work life. It's really just like Facebook, but this one's for career. And it involves a lot of other things that a business person thinks of naturally, but you have to think of LinkedIn as a business person thinks of LinkedIn. Now, a business person looks at LinkedIn, they go, oh, communications, research, marketing, and advertising platform. Sure, among other things. But as an individual, we have to think of these aspects because you have a career brand to manage forevermore. You know, I'd like to tell you, you're going to get one more job and hey, there we go to the end, but you're going to have one more job and after that, one more job and after that, one more job. That's the world we live in today. The sooner you begin to manage your career branding, the easier each one of those transitions gets. Now, behind the scenes on LinkedIn, it's this three-level network. So here I am in the corner, connected to another happy person right there. And that's my connection. But no matter what those folks do to their settings, every one of their connections are also in John's pool. That's a pool that belongs to me. And no matter what those connections do to their settings, every one of their connections also belongs in John's pool. They're not my connections, but they're in my pool. And I can see every stitch of information. I can also share things out to that audience, which is how we influence how they think of us. If you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker. Resume and LinkedIn guru as well. So if you're suffering from what most suffer from, and that's really bad storytelling in your career, we've so emotionally tied ourselves close to that journey, we can't see a new way to tell it that's still truthful, yet not confessional. This is not where you need to disclose everything. I'll tell you a little bit more about my background as we go along, but if you need help, check out my Self-Recruiter website under the services tab. All that help is listed there. Some extra help might be found in my book. It's a great roadmap. You can find it on the Self-Recruiter website over on Amazon. We'll skip over that. You can look at it on your own. Some other resources, of course, on my Self-Recruiter website, halfway down the page. Very special version of my LinkedIn lecture where you can see me large or the slides large. And really, you can use the whole thing as a start and stop tutorial, piggybacking on today's lecture, so that you can improve your LinkedIn profile. Click on my articles on LinkedIn. You'll get a few other articles that will piggyback on all of the topics that I teach and will help you. Don't let someone else think for yourself. Both today in the articles and everything I share, I certainly do share a lot of direction, a lot of opinion. Yet there's only one person that actually makes the decision, and that's you. You need to put down that smart device. You need to get out of the back seat. You need to get behind the wheel, or you're not likely to get to that destination you're thinking about. So let's keep this concept in mind as we move forward. Now, today's lecture is really about moving your brand into the digital world. So yes, we're talking about LinkedIn, but we have to bring up Twitter. Almost lose my lunch every time, or breakfast in this case. Instagram and a few other platforms we have to talk about. But it really comes down to, why does social media matter? I mean, there's so much nonsense out there, right? I mean, does it even matter? Unfortunately, it does, because small changes change perception. And we've seen that effect with different segments of even our own country somehow believing completely different facts. Well, you know, facts are facts. They don't change. You can't have different facts. But yet we end up with people believing different facts because of small changes changing perception. You can utilize this to your benefit in a positive way by showcasing your career in the right way, because those small changes can elevate your brand. You know, social media is where the people are. It's where the discussion is. Among everything else on this list, look at that second one from the bottom there. Proper, effective use of social media. And in my view, that is 2 to 5 minutes per day. It takes discipline. 2 to 5 minutes per day, structured in advance. Very, very easy use of social media. And that's how you stay on the top of people's minds with seemingly no contact. That's people up the food chain in your own company. That's people up the food chain in the competitor companies. All those people you'd love to rub elbows with. Proper use of social media brings that right to the forefront. So let's go back to why we're really going to work on our career brand, and that's the resume, the LinkedIn profile. We either want to go up the ladder in our own company, or we'd like to get hired externally. All comes down to, of course, we have to be capable and qualified. But that is not the reason to get hired. Now, don't mishear that. Would never consider anybody for the discussion, even the discussion, that wasn't capable or qualified. So that is certainly not the criteria I'm looking for. That's like tying your shoes. If the person couldn't tie their shoes, they wouldn't get in the door. The reason you're going to be hired once you're capable and qualified is, number one, because of chemistry above all other things. Number two, confidence above all other things in chemistry. And that's before the credentialing, the background, who you've actually worked for, what was the work product. Before any of that, assuming you're right for the role. Are you doing enough to build chemistry? I really doubt it. Are you doing enough to showcase your confidence? Probably our modesty and humility is undermining us here. Now, grew up Catholic, I know all about modesty and humility, and those are wonderful, wonderful traits. Great for all aspects of our life, but not job search, not career. These two areas, it works directly against us. If we don't give ourselves permission to put that essentially bias layer aside, and I've got to learn to toot my own horn, as distasteful as that might be, you're not going to be perceived as confident. And someone else that talks a good game and doesn't actually deliver is going to take your opportunity. Let's not let that happen. So another way to think of why you're going to get hired, besides the ones I just mentioned, the chemistry and the confidence, is what makes you tick? What drives you? Why are you interesting? What's your story? Which could have something to what you do professionally, could have nothing to do with what you do professionally. But it is all the different things that make you interesting, make you tick. Here's an example. I was redoing a client, all wonderful marketing background, tremendous career progression. I see a wonderful story here. But before all of that, at some earlier iteration of themselves, they had become a certified locomotive engineer, like choo-choo train, choo-choo. Like, okay, well, that little morsel was hidden away in the reaches of the darkest closet. Oh, don't mention I'm a locomotive engineer. And you better believe below all the dazzling marketing accomplishments, below the career progression, below the degree, below everything else, 7-point bold, certified locomotive engineer. At first, it's like, oh, do we need that? Do we need that? I'm like, feels like a turd on your resume, right? That's an emotional thing that you have because of that journey you were on. You don't realize that's why you're going to get so many interviews. You're already on the table with 5 or 6 other people that all have the same dazzling marketing background as you. You need to be different, special, interesting. Oh, put it on the list. I have to hear that. Oh, nice marketing background. Oh, yeah, I have to hear that story. Don't miss out on your interviews because you leave out the interesting bits. Those things are very, very important for you. So let me take a segue over this and take you over to my Instagram. You can go check out my Self-Recruiter Instagram anytime you'd like. By the way, I think it's so important. It's a drop-down menu on my Self-Recruiter website. Now, that usually indicates importance, except you'll notice looking here, there's not a single thing on Instagram about what I do professionally. Oh, maybe one might sneak in here or there, but really not. It's all me hiking up the Hudson Valley, or here about a year and a half ago, 2.5 years ago, I think, almost dying in the California desert at 108 degrees. Took a wrong turn up on the plateau, which added 2 extra miles in the dead sun. And boy, that was a full hour of my heart beating at 180 beats a minute. I did not think I was going to make it back. It was almost the bucket list, but did make it back, and I'm so excited. But boy, it was a memorable trip. And now you'll never forget it as well. You have to think about what is it that drives you, is passionate. Everything that you see on my Instagram involves challenge. Everything that I do professionally involves overcoming challenge. So you have to think about your storytelling technique and what you might want to share. Now, why do I put the Instagram on my drop-down menu? Because it answers the, why are you interesting? What makes you tick? There's already plenty out there about why John is qualified as a career coach and a resume writer and all those things. You want to know, who is this person? What drives them? And I use that to answer the question. You can use your Instagram. If you're in creative, I don't know how you're not using it as part of your overall portfolio of your presentation. But somehow you have to think about 2 or 3 social media platforms that somehow will showcase you very nicely professionally, because small changes change perception. Then group them all together and never let go of that initial concept of you're in control, which is part of how you take control of the discussion. Influencing other people. Now, here's a trap most people fall into. They're like, I want to be cookie cutter perfect. Oh, I just be so perfect, I can slide right into that role. Okay, I'll take number 2. Number 2, I'm paying you less. I'm going to pay you less. No, you don't want less? Okay, number 1, number 5, doesn't really matter. You're all cookie cutter perfect, interchangeable. I think you see the problem, right? Okay, so you have to be cookie cutter perfect, interchangeable, but somehow also different, exceptional, special. Allow yourself to step out of line. This requires a paradigm shift in how we tell the story, because it's our job to teach them how to select us as the very best one. Of course, I talk a lot about that in my interview intervention lecture. You should check that one out as well. So for extra clarity, resume is about catching interest. That's, piquing interest, making notice of you. LinkedIn tends to be more closing the deal, confirming their beliefs like you are the best one. These are 2 marketing documents that work side by side, or another way to think about it is the essence and value of your career on a single sheet of paper and a 3-dimensional sales brochure all about you that naturally drives that reader to one singular conclusion. My gosh, if I hire that person, work with that person, best business decision I'll make today. That's for sure. Now, top of our resume should have this single contact line, by the way, and it links the 2 marketing documents. We start with the LinkedIn URL. We follow by the city, state. Nope, we don't have to know that you live at 123 any street. Don't hire you because of that. Email address, cell phone number. Notice it says cell phone number. It doesn't say your home phone number. I don't really care that you can't get your cell phone number in your home. The cell phone number's what goes there. You see what's on this screen, why you want one on the left, one on the right. If they're not already picking up the phone to call you, my gosh, click on my LinkedIn profile to close the deal when you see the rest of the story that's not on the resume. Now, before I jump into all the ways to make your LinkedIn profile really sing your praises, I just want to recoup a little bit and cover what I believe job search actually is. Because the tragedy I see all the time in my lectures is people sitting on the internet looking for job postings, thinking that is job search. That is about 1 out of 15 different pathways that I teach in Supercharging Your Job Search that can uncover that next opportunity. If it's the only thing you're doing, you're quite literally wasting 50% of your time. About half of all those job postings you see aren't real in the first place. It comes from how they are sold up to 1 year in advance, and they expire, use them, or lose them. Real job search to me is reversing everything. Let's put a list together of 30 organizations, profit, nonprofit, none of that really matters. It's all the same thing. Let's put together 30 organizations I'm dying to work for. Dying to work. Oh, I'm dying to work for. By the way, you being dying to work there cannot be because you saw some open job. Oh, I see an open job. I'm dying to work there. No. That's about you. Now, I haven't said it yet today, but job search is 2 things nobody likes. It's a sales process. It's also a dating process. Nobody likes that. The 2 worst things mixed together. So you have to think about how you're going to put together a plan to win these folks over, and means it has to be about them. If there's some open job you're excited about, that's about you. You didn't think about what would be exciting for them to hear. So I build out these organizations or companies. I devise the steps needed, working like a detective. I mean, it's not really possible, but if it was, how do I align the sun, the moon, the stars, working backward to figure out those steps? By the way, all of this covered in Supercharging Your Job Search. Discover the decision makers, overcome their objections, because that's their job, is to object to you, to test you, to see what you say, see how your thoughts get put together. Dazzle them, get the meeting. That's what real job search is. Now, other thing we might have to cover is we might have to make sure that our story shows enough effectiveness at a distance. Now that we've been through and continue traveling through the pandemic, we have to make sure that we seem viable in a more remote setting. Even if they're on site in the office right now, there may be back and forth between remote and no remote. So think about how you might have to go back and tell your story in a slightly different way to showcase effectiveness at a distance, even if it's through speaking or things like this. Networking, really interacting with other people to exchange information. But I like this second part here, this pool of contacts that can be leveraged to our benefit. You know, traditional networking, we run through that and we go, oh, I got done with my networking. Oh, I hate that. I get it. Nobody really likes networking. It's important because that's another door that can open for you. And if you're not brave enough to go down and really do the networking and learn how to do it properly, which means it's a date, can't always be all about you, even though it really is, you're not going to be very effective. We get to the end of that and we feel, oh, that didn't go well. Well, it's because you did it the usual customer expected way and you didn't think more in unusual terms and unexpected terms. It's not as easy as just networking. It's just going to happen for me, because that's a rut that we get into. No, it might happen, might get struck by lightning. That's why you have to do it. But it's a very low percentage. So you're going to have to change things to get out of this unhappy cycle that you've been stuck in your job search, or even in your storytelling across resume or your LinkedIn profile, or maybe even your interview techniques. Simply change the rules that don't work for you. Subtitle of my book is Changing the Rules. Oh, that rule works for me. I love that. I love that rule. That's a great rule. Well, that doesn't work for me. That rule is for somebody else. I just step over the fence or around the barbed wire, whatever it is. That rule belongs to somebody else. It doesn't belong to me. That's to keep away the people that are afraid. That will get you into a more unusual, unconventional, unexpected problem-solving state. We have to begin to connect the dots for these moments of clarity to happen for us. And that means we have to try things a new way that is going to be much more beneficial. So first question I really have when thinking about LinkedIn is, whom should I network with? Whom should I connect with? And we're just going to give you the answer here. Everyone. Really, I get connection requests all day long, and it's a two-handed response. One hand goes like this. The other hand goes accept. There is no evaluation whatsoever. I don't care if you're in India, Russia, China. I don't care if you're in janitorial services. None of it matters, because it's not ever really about you, the connection. Oh, near and dear to my heart, but it's never really about the connection. When I get that connection, I get 2 or 3 layers behind you of connections that I own forever. That's a very, very different thing. So to me, everyone is a good connection. So think about all the different things that you might do or might have done in the past that could be a chance to exchange business cards or network, or maybe even it's just in the park or waiting in line at the movies or at some restaurant, which I haven't gone to in quite a long time. almost anywhere, but you're going to have to carry business cards and you're going to have to start conversations. To close this first part out, link with as many people as possible. It's about getting to sit on all of the data so that you can extract data to make your career branding and your job search easier. So let me show you two techniques, and we'll show you how to maximize the profile. The two techniques are recruiter techniques I used every day as a recruiter. This one produces a statistically perfect list of 30 organizations that are dying to hire you. The only unknown is, do they have an opening? Now that's a big unknown. But if you already know that this particular group is dying to hire you, if they have an opening, that's a game changer. So if you've ever worked with a good recruiter, and there's an awful lot that are not, but there's some very good ones out there, this is the first thing a good recruiter does. They get off the phone with you, and if they were genuinely excited about you, they feign excitement all the time to get information out of you. But if they generally thought you were a really great candidate, the first thing they do is they work this little plan to build a statistically perfect list of 30 organizations. Then they do not bother to look at those company websites. They do not bother to look at the job boards. They simply pick up the phone, call 30 managers at 30 companies, and 2, 3, or 4 every single time out of 30 go, oh, we need a person just like this. You do? Tell me about your need. Tell me about, what's going on. Well, you don't tell them about the homework, the magic trick of how I arrived here. Take your win and move forward. So how do we do this? We're going to go into LinkedIn and search for people that are just like us in some way, shape, or form. Not every way, shape, or form, some way, shape, or form. So, and then they moved one job forward because we'd like to learn from them. So that's not that hard of a search. I pull those people up, and let's imagine I was a Coca-Cola quality manager until yesterday, and now I'm looking for a new role. And of course, I'm looking for people that used to be a Coca-Cola quality manager. That's simply a toggle choice. And now in the results, I'm collecting people together that made one move forward. And I collect them all together. And what I'm going to do is look at their one back company and their one forward company before we were identical. And all the companies in all directions should want to hire me. Now, in this example, your heart is going to crash on the rocks pretty quickly because you're going to see 7-Up, Pepsi Cola, RC Cola. John, I could have written that list myself. Well, yes, that part of the list you should have written right off the top of your head yourself. But then when you continue to look around, you'll see all these other food and beverage companies you've never heard of. There's like 1 million of them. Every single one of them statistically perfect to hire you. They hired your duplicate. Go and introduce yourself, and voila, like magic, something happens. That's building a statistically perfect list. I'll show you another method of how to do it still coming up. 1, 2, 3, forward, different technique. Now, if you'd like to reinvent yourself or you'd like to launch your career for the first time, this technique works equally well in both cases. So I had a gal call me up from Atlanta. I have the actual thing I'll show you here. It's much easier to this one's a little more tough mentally. But it's the same concept. I'm going to go in and this time I want to learn from someone really deeply. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is a wonderful invention, but I don't have to bang my head against the concrete to invent it. It's been invented. So what I'm trying to do here is learn from someone else. And that means I'm going to have to search deeper. It's going to be tougher. It's a problem-solving event. So I'm going to look for people just like me that then made 3 job moves forward. So I can go, which one went the direction I like and how do I follow them? So let's get to the real life example. Gal calls me up from Atlanta. She says, I think I need a career coach. I think I don't have a career. I'm like, oh, a little harsh. Send me your stuff here. Let's take a look. And honestly, she's 2, 3 years out of school, really done a little of this, a little of that. Now she's managing a health club. Doesn't want to manage a health club. Nothing wrong with that. Doesn't want to do that. I don't know how to find a career. I'm like, I have an idea. I have this technique. I said, well, you're just into the workforce. No, I've been working 3 years. I'm like, well, welcome. There's nothing here. I said, I see your real asset as your education. So let's focus on the education, see what other people did with that same exact thing. Now, she went to Clark Atlanta University. All of these folks went to Clark Atlanta University. She studied mass media. Guess what? They all studied mass media. And through the magic of search at the time that I did it, they were all 2, 3, 4 years out of school. Same asset. What did they do? So we start to look around. Doesn't matter where they're located. What do you like? Oh, events coordinator. I like to work in events. Events at Warner Brothers. Oh, that sounds pretty good to me too. I'd love to be a membership director. Oh, recruiter. I'd like to help people. I said, well, We'll come back to that one. Trish up here, this membership director for the nonprofit for the Chamber of Commerce. How'd she do it? What do you think her first job was? Membership associate. And her second job? Membership manager. And voila, 3 steps in, she's membership director. Well, my client here over on the right, Tahita, there she is, didn't know what she's looking for. I said, well, you're looking for a nonprofit or foundation. There's a lot of those around Atlanta, so you're in luck. I don't know what kind of role I'm looking for. It's member services. I don't know what that is. Well, I don't either, but apparently they're going to love your background. Let's go sell it. Of course, she finds herself at the Georgia Pharmacy Association in member services. And of course, been telling this story a long time. I have to update it 2 more moves. Moved up to manager of member services and database, and finally up to director of membership operations, down an entire career path she didn't realize existed before our conversation. You can change your future very easily. If you wake up tomorrow mid-career and go, I'm so done selling sugary sodas, it's the same thing. I do the same search, find people that made 3 moves. It's going to be a much harder search. And the majority of them will all have stayed in food and beverage. And then a few of them will have spiraled out into some other industry. And you go, how'd they do it? How'd they do it? I don't know. But why don't we just follow them? There's something about those companies that like your background. Go and introduce yourself right into a new field. Now, in adjusting our LinkedIn profile, in maximizing, we have to understand perception. We're this product and we have to elevate this product. You have to have some idea of what you want them to think of your product, even in advance. And that means our success is going to be determined by how much preparation, how much effort we put in. Very little effort put in, very little outcome. A lot of extra effort put in, well, small changes change everything. Simply change reality by changing perception. Much easier. Think about the perception that you need to manage and what you need to change. Now, let me show you a few of my shares. All of these shares are over on LinkedIn and maybe a couple from some other places. Here I'm doing a Morgan Stanley event, and I shared that. Doing my lecture at the public library, and I shared that. Doing my online boot camp, which I used to do as a live session 2 or 3 times a year. I'm working on taking that whole thing into a daily live session very, very soon for launch. Here I am sharing that. Here I am up at WHCR Voice of Harlem Radio. Been doing that 4 or 5 times, 2-hour drive time from 6 to 8 in the morning. That's a lot of fun. Didn't get in the picture, but my book and my coffee got in the picture. Or I share some different articles that give you other insights over my LinkedIn, all ways to stay motivated. Or I share the radio show host's share of the different authors he had on that month. So I'm piggyback sharing my own content through somebody else. Or I'm running out the door to another lecture, can't share the same darn photo all the time, and looking for a new photo. I pulled this one. Someone in my audience shot this photo. I don't particularly like this photo because all I see is, where's my hair? Why is my nose so big? Why am I so greasy? And suddenly, without the fear a little bit of breaking your brand just a tiny bit to show a real human being, suddenly 1,500 views out of nowhere. Branding your career involves thinking about which platforms you're going to use. If you'd like to be employed, I absolutely recommend LinkedIn and Twitter at the same time. Notice that they are harmonious. They work together, but they're not identical, even though I'll let this content flow from my LinkedIn right out to Twitter, never having to visit Twitter if I don't want to. And all of this content flowing out in a continual basis. Now, yes, I'm in a lot of mine because I'm a public speaker. Yours would be articles, books, events, things going on in your industry, things that your competitors are doing, challenges within the industry. Suddenly you become the person with the finger on the pulse. All this content flowing by about you across people in your industry that changes perception of you. And you also can't be afraid of being a real person, because we're all so wound up in our looks. And some of these I like my look, and some of these I don't like my look, like that one. But it's all part of being there. So we're going to take our content from our resume and we're going to really filter it through a singular question. What rises to the level to be a best business decision convincer? Oh, if they saw this, they'd think it was best business if they hire me for this project. What rises to that level? Which means, yes, I'm going to focus it as much as possible on performance and how I affected performance. Let's get over to LinkedIn itself. So we'll take you through my LinkedIn profile, but the thing to learn for you is to really see how I utilize space to tell story. Well, let's start by understanding how you look to other people. When you look at other people, and if they're on the free version like I am, only the free version. Everything I teach you can do it. They're going to show you the last 5 people that looked at you. And so the 2 on the bottom, they just don't understand LinkedIn. There's no point to privacy on LinkedIn. This is your personal, professional shingle out there for the world to understand who you are and why you're valuable. That should not be hidden. Jonathan here, I can tell you, does not work in the glamour or fashion industry. So that is not an appropriate picture. And if there's anybody listening today that is a founder or owner, my gosh, if you'd like to be employed, you better change that title. We do not hire founders and owners because they don't listen to us. They have their own ideas and we can't tell them what to do. Change it to principal. All the same, benefit, none of the baggage. That's a person that I can give the responsibility to. We'll take the authority necessary. We'll deliver the results I need with it. And they'll still listen to me because they're not an owner founder. Now, Deborah here. Deborah's pretty good. I mean, when I look at Deborah, I get good energy. I get textiles, lighting, fashion, interiors. I get a focus, thank goodness. But what's Deborah doing within textiles, lighting, fashion, interiors? Oh, Brad here. Corporate affairs, communications, global reputation management, crisis comms, government relations. Oh, look, I can contact that guy. Oh, looks the part too. Full disclosure, one of my clients. Yes, you need to look the part. I was out doing cardio earlier in tights and 5-finger shoes and running gear. And you know what? If I came on camera looking like that, I don't think you'd take my advice. You have to look like the product. Your profiles themselves, that's your LinkedIn profile. That's the window at your world. If you were in retail, had to get people in the shop, what would you put in the window? Something dazzling. What are you going to put in your window? Why are you interesting? What makes you tick? What's going to drive the story? So first impressions are everything. So yes, you need to make use of a banner. No, you do not have to be in the banner the way I am. Public speaker, it's pretty easy for me to get these kind of shots. But it could be something from your work life. It could be something, I've used a close-up shot of the dirty desk before, which has just the right feeling cropped a certain way. There's all sorts of things we could use, but the idea of the banner is not to distract away from your profile or picture, but to add focus to it. So first impressions are important. Besides the 2 images, between profile shot and the banner, your headline is incredibly important. That's just below your name. To me, people really misunderstand this headline and what it's all about. And they go, oh, I'm so emotionally close to this because it's right below my name, right below my picture. All right, well, I'll say something that won't seem logical. This has very little to do with your profile. What? Obviously, it has to do with your profile, but very little the way you think. This headline is really not about the 500 plus people that you know. Those people know you. This is about the millions of people in a 3-level network that have no clue who you are. So as I share a book, an article, event, or anything going on with me, and I share that out to social media, much of it will be shared with people that have no clue who John is. Shared something interesting, but who's this John guy? So what do I tell them? Author and career coach, resume and LinkedIn and career branding guru, featured speaker at Department of Labor, New York Public Library, CUNY, many others, quoted and seen in Wall Street Journal, CNN, on and on and on. Oh, look, I can contact that guy. Oh, 500 plus connections. Would you like to be seen as a mover and shaker? All of those elements are necessary. Have to be contactable. That is one of the only places LinkedIn does not promptly hide your email address from 99% of the people. Oh, I won't be controlled that way. It's right there. Yes, you're going to get some spam, but you're going to let spam prevent you from getting to your destiny? That would seem silly. Even starting off with a little bit of quote about myself, which I wrote. So think about your banner image. Think about how it might relate to the profile image. Think about how you're going to set up your headline as like a 200, 300 character resume, essentially. What are the best of the best things about you that can really make them jump out of the page? And make your case, put a message in there for you. Now, all of this only happens through trial and error. There's no instant brilliance. So you have to go in, you have to try it, you have to look at it, you have to go back and edit it some more. Same thing with the banner. I have to work through all of these things. And then as I begin to work down the profile, I'm going to use the summary or about section to begin to maybe even do a little bit of a 3-card Monty. I want to tell them how to think about me, and I want to tell them why my brand is valuable to them simply by sharing cherry-picked pieces of my background that I can now pull together in a different format. Now, big thing here is you realize there's tremendous amount of white space here. White space is incredibly important to how you absorb information. You know, I could have put those media hits in much more succinctly, but it would have taken an extra second, 2 or 3 to read them. There is no extra second, 2 or 3. They just need to see it, imprint, see it, imprint. So much room left. I then put my different speaking gigs in. New York Public Library, Department of Labor, but then I immediately put 8 more in there. But notice how I cleverly had to break them up into chewable chunks, because otherwise someone would miss NYC Service or Rainbow Push Wall Street Project or Goldman Sachs or Harvard Business School Club of New York City. Can't have them missing any of that. Still more room left, so I put in a few other topic articles and roll the dice on a whole paragraph out of my book, mention my full services, and then I begin right away to share content so they can see backup. Now, the next thing you're really going to get to on your profile is the activity box. And unfortunately, in many, many people's profiles, this is empty. And it just makes a note of what you've shared in the last 90 days, which is empty, 0. Are you even doing your job? Do you even care about your job? You're certainly not living and breathing your profession. You have to allow people to look over your shoulder, and that's what this box does. So even today, you could fix this by sharing 4 or 5 items that are just appropriate for what's going on with the competitor, what's going on with the industry, what's going on with the challenges, what's going on with your thoughts, and suddenly you're living and breathing your profession. Don't forget to share. Whole separate lecture called Career Evolution, really part 2 to this lecture, which teaches you, once you have a great LinkedIn profile, how do you build and manage a marketing campaign in just 2 minutes a day. Check out the Career Evolution lecture. Then you get down to the resume portion of the LinkedIn profile, but that doesn't look like a resume. Are those things effective for most people? Why would I make it look like a resume when that's not effective? Just parse out the space and think about how you want to tell a story. You realize, other than a quote that I might write myself, there's absolutely no sentence structure here. And without sentence structure, it's still very, very clear. I just have to block out what I want them to absorb and think about, how do I elevate that so they can look at it, get it, look at it, get it. Once I'm all done with that, I'm going to go back and add just a little tiny bit of all cap for structure. If I add too much all cap, they're not going to read much at all. If I add no all cap, probably not going to read much at all. It's a balance to make things absorbable. As you work down, here's a little more of a view of some 2-line bullets. And I know you can start and stop these videos to spend some more time on it, so I'm going to keep moving. But I want you to notice I put a keyword block in this area. Now, most people do not need a keyword block. If you need a keyword block, this is how you do it. You simply carriage return down a few spaces. I know, carriage return down drives people crazy. I'm like, yes, hit the return key. That's what it is. Now I simply put keywords, and run them all together. Now, you had some time to look at this while I'm talking. Did you see Stephen Covey? Did you see Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins? Never quite know how they're going to search him. Tori Johnson, 5 O'Clock Club, 92nd Street Y. All these things I have absolutely nothing to do with. Why are they here? Because John thinks like a detective. Those are all things you could find in the searches to find someone like John, but that's not in my story, so you wouldn't find John. So this is how you cleverly get it in your background when you can't organically tell it in your story. So if I need to come up right next to those people, this is how you do it. Remember, all of this is trial and error. So you go in, you try, I think it'll look great, go back out and see it again, come back until you get the very best format. Make sure all your jobs and everything else have some other content in it as well. Tell the story, whatever it might be for you. Go back and pull every single picture that ever touched your work life. Good picture, bad picture, in focus, out of focus. And then look with new eyes. What has the right energy? What has the right atmosphere? Let me crop it a certain way, overlay a little bit of the type of the story, and boom, your career comes to life. A couple of techniques I want to share with you. This is from earlier when I'm VP over the 100 office recruiting system. This is, it was a national recruiting firm, 100 plus offices. We did manufacturing, engineering, supply chain, logistics, energy, on and on and on. If you think about that, that is just a clever way to use more keywords. This would be a terrible technique, by the way, for your resume. In my view, you have a single sheet of paper. That real estate needs to be used for your value, not the company. But here, I'm not handcuffed by the real estate. I can throw a little sugar at my company and it comes back to me to sweeten my story. If you were in any one of those industries and you needed help with a new resume, help with a new LinkedIn profile, help with your career coaching, help with your next interview, guess who would come right up based on how I told the story? Another variation on that same technique from much earlier. Now, this could get you in trouble. Let's be careful. This is associated clients. Now, I had the right to share every one of my clients, but be careful of those non-disclosures. Be careful of those trade secret agreements. So I shared every single software client I worked with, And you can imagine if you worked with any one of those software clients and you needed help with the resume, help with LinkedIn profile, help with interviewing, who would come right up based on how I told the story. If there's a way for you to use that technique, now you understand how to use it. Look just below that and you can, yes, copy and paste that entire line right into your profile. This is how you get endless new connections forever. You simply put this line into your story anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is. If people don't understand what it is, they'll skip right over it. If they get it, they go, oh, he's a networker, and they skip right over it and keep going on. Now, publications module, most people don't really use this, but I have my book. I have a few articles in there. But even if you don't have the book and articles, can you write 3, 4, 5 articles? Page and a half. Nobody wants to actually read. Does somehow share your pearls of wisdom around 5 of the key areas of where you deliver value? Almost as if I came to you and said, oh, could you talk to my kid? They'd like to come down the same career track as you. Could you give them some wise words, some pearls of wisdom, that kind of thing? Yeah, that wise mentoring tone. It's the right tone. When you stick them on a free blog, you attach the free blog right here to the publications module, and it positions and sells you. Volunteering. You'll notice on my profiles, nor anybody that I work on, I never use the volunteer module. We're so dismissive. Oh, we're interested into, oh, it's volunteer work. It's not real. Well, today is volunteer work, and I guarantee you this is real. This is real work. So that's not the right criteria. So both for myself and my clients, everything goes under the organizations module because, oh, this is how you align yourself. This is how you give back. And yes, lots of dates on mine because I'm a public speaker. This field does not require dates. This is also where you would stick good works. So my gosh, if you did something for Habitat for Humanity for a 2-week program at some point, my gosh, that better be in here. Whatever it might be, put it in here to draw attention. You never know who's going to be interested. Here's one more variation on that same technique I was showing you earlier. Got invited over to the NYU Wasserman Center, doing a career discussion, and we're going to do a little roundtable. And they sent me all the info in advance. I'm like, oh, great, let's try it. And I'm looking up Jessica and John Ladinsky, and suddenly, John has so many more connections than I have, and I'm jealous. I'm actually shy and introverted, no matter what you see here. And yet I'm still very competitive. I want to win. But I'm thinking a little differently. I don't want more connections than John Ladinsky. I want John Ladinsky's connections. I already have mine. If I learned how to give a little credit where credit is due and share the spotlight, the reflection of that spotlight comes right back to me. Every time they search any one of those things, guess who comes up right next to it? Keyword skills endorsement module. This is 50 words or phrases all about you. Yes, you need to put in 50 words or phrases. Nope, no one is an expert at 50 items. That's not the criteria. Some of these items you will be an expert at. Some of them you may have just touched, like I touched this laptop. Laptop's on the list. That's very low exposure, John. Yes, but someone on the back end could be going, get me someone that has done a little of this, a little of that, and has exposure to laptops. Boom, 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 like a recipe card. Everything you've touched goes into this field. All of this information you put into your profile gets reorganized and condensed. It can all be expanded very easily with one click for the interested reader, yet it doesn't overwhelm. So put as much content in as you can in an interesting way and understand that, boy, that's really going to help everything jump for you. Honors awards, everything else, publications, whatever you can get in here, let's expand it. And then all of that content is still searchable. That's another reason to put in another layer of detail, even though they might have to expand it to see it. Written recommendations. These are, in a perfect world, I'd love to see 4, 5, or 6 of them. That'd be fantastic. I think I have 52, 53, 54, something like that. Not a single edit, which if you read a few of them, you're going to realize right away because your head is going to want to explode. Oh my gosh, typos all over the place, grammar all over the place. Didn't John see this? I'm like, yes, I did. That's why it works. It is so real when you read it, the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Do not edit people's words. There's really almost no time you need to edit their words. Join some groups. This is how you expand your network dramatically. Also, when I share things, if I belong to just the right groups, that content can land on their desktops. So yes, get in there and join the right groups. There's a self-recruiter group. I love that group. You should maybe think about that group as well. So follow some influencers. Look at that. I'm following Tony Robbins. Maybe so I can get just behind him and give him a little push off the stage, get a little long in the tooth. Have to make some room for us. Follow some influencers. I don't usually piggyback their content, but I'm following them. I have to rub elbows. Now you have to be a mover and shaker, which means you have to get to 501 connections. If you fail to reach 501, you're never going to be labeled 500 plus. You could be at 0 right now. What is today? Monday. And by Friday, you could be at 501, looking like a mover shaker, 500 plus. All you have to do is invite the people. So I'm going to go up to the unified search box, and in there, I'm going to one by one go invite me with quotes around the whole thing. And I'm going to get, even on the free version, 10 plus pages of people saying, just invite me, no judgments, just invite me. I run down, invite every single one of them. None of it matters. Go back and do it again. All invites accepted. It's right there in the profile. All invites accepted. I run down the list, invite every single one of them. Open networker. Sounds a little strange, but open networker. Quote, run the whole thing. Last one doesn't really need quotes. It's a single word, lion. And you're going to get a few that don't belong. And we're going to Food Line. I'm in the Lion team of the real estate company. Okay, a few that don't belong, but most are high volume networkers. Very, very good people. Wherever you are in your process for building out your brand, elevating your story, work through my resume renovation lecture, work through the building your career brand lecture. Think about the career evolution next step, part 2 to LinkedIn when you're ready to start the social media aspect of it. And take your first step and repeat. Let's get to the boss's boss, and everybody else. Last thing to show you today is how we reach anybody we'd like. We go to the unified search box again, top of any page. Now, in this example, I'm going to search Informatica, big database middleware company. Used to make a lot of placements with them. As you type something out, you're going to get this drop-down menu. Oh, don't click on the drop-down menu, trip down the rabbit hole. Simply click enter. You get this nice secondary sorting process. I am looking for the people that work at Informatica, but at the same time, I'm also going, what other companies that are just like Informatica that would love to hire me that I'm not thinking of? So I have to dig around and find companies. Oh, there it is. And I go, show me the companies. What do we get? 34,000 companies. Wow, that's a lot of companies. What's the deal here? A lot of these are system integrators. The ones that aren't actually Informatica, will they resell or install Informatica software? If I'm statistically right for Informatica, statistically right for a great number on that list. Alternate method. You can put every company you work for one at a time to build lists. But then I really have to get back over to the people. Show me the people, 2.5 million. Oof, too many. Put on my thinking cap because it's problem solving. Give me the ones in the US and really currently working for Informatica. Not like 3 years ago working for Informatica. And what do I get? 93,000, still too many. I didn't do the current one yet. Let's say current. 1,615. Much better. Okay. But I can't look at 1,600 profiles either. That's not going to work. More thinking cap, even on the free version. Just VP. Look how simple that is. If VP, really US, really Informatica, 75 VPs. Maybe it's a director. Show me your director, really US, really Informatica. Is there directors? 228 directors. I have it because it's problem solving. It's a sales director I'm looking for. And why just the US? Why not right down to New York City, even on the free version? And suddenly I get 3. I'm always looking for 3 to 5 people, and I've got 3. If I could find 5, I could increase my odds. So if I simply understood that, well, here's the 3, but I want 5, what else could I do? Maybe there's a sales VP really in the New York City area. 2 more. Last bit of frustration is I'd like to connect with all these people, of course, before I reach out to them. And I'm going to get frustrated sometimes with this send in mail. Connect. Oh, I love that. Send in mail. I just need to learn to load their profile. They're still going to frustrate me, but if I click the ... they've just hidden the connect simply behind the drop down. Connect with these people, increase your odds, reach out to them with a message that says, you don't know me. I'm professionally appropriate. Strokes their ego a little bit. I like to connect with other professionals in our niche. And of course, love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. Capture the information you're building. Who works at this company? Who reports to them? Who do they report to? Capture all this information, all these forms over on Self-Recruiter under the Advice tab. And this is called the Job Search Management System. It's all free. You can just download it. Capture all of this information so that you are making your life easier as you move ahead. Well, this has been building your career brand with LinkedIn and how to use it for your job search. There's so much more to share with you. I hope you check out my other lectures. Coming up tomorrow is the last for this mini series with a special Ask Self-Recruiter all about career branding and ways we can make a difference. That is tomorrow at 10 a.m. I hope you join in. And a little bit of a visual coming up right here. And We will see you tomorrow. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Whether you're joining me on LinkedIn Live or over on my YouTube channel, Self Recruiter, over on my Facebook, I hope you like, comment, share, message, hit the bell, subscribe, all those fun things. And if you need help, check out the Self Recruiter website under the Services tab. Talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.